favorite Saskatchewan-Calgary matchup ever as Henry Burris comes back to Regina. Sellout crowd of 28,800. Even the tub's full as everybody's jammed Taylor Field on a bright, crisp prairie afternoon to watch Henry Burris. A temperature of 6 degrees, and the wind could be a factor at 31K out of the southeast. Tom Higgins says this game provides the easiest pregame speech of the year. All he had to do was point to the door and send the guys out for this key Western matchup. Well, Danny Barrett says that his Roughriders level of play is where it should be, and he's trying to maintain that, maybe step it up a notch with a win as they go into the bye week next week. 8-8 Saskatchewan, 8-7 Calgary. It's the Burris Bowl. And you can feel the excitement and the playoff atmosphere here. Well, we could feel it yesterday when we arrived in Regina.
It has been sold out for over a week. The stands here at Taylor Field are packed.
We're underway. Kicking into that win was McCallum. David Allen with the return upended quickly as he gets to the 40-yard line. Fred Perry first to get there and listen to the crowd. And Henry says, bring it on, I'm ready for you.
Henry Burris wants to get him going right out of the gate. And the Bluebirds are out. That's his great receiving core, led in the middle in the slot back positions with Nick Lewis and Jermaine Copeland, and offensive line with Jamie Crysdale out center.
Pitch to Reynolds. First play of the game, and Joffrey Reynolds in a solid collision up at the 45-yard line, met by TJ Stansel in again in this defense for Jackie Mitchell.
We mentioned in the pregame show Joffrey Reynolds had 150 yards against that defensive line, but that defensive line didn't have Nate Davis or David Benefield. Travis Smith will be in charge of trying to track Joffrey Reynolds from the middle of the linebacking core. Great matchup, Eddie Davis and David Bush against Copeland and Lewis.
2nd and 4. Blitz coming, Burris pulls it down, and he'll be stopped short as Nate Davis came across, and Tom Higgins told us he wanted to see Henry Burris carry the football early, just like a guy on the kickoffs, get rid of the butterflies with an early hit.
Yeah, you want to get, no matter what position you play in, that first hit under your belt, and that just settles you down. For Henry Burris, he may get that first hit right there running the football. In fact, we could see Henry Burris run a lot to take the crowd out of this. He feels if he can run for first downs, use his legs to move the pocket around from left to right, he will take the crowd out and move the chains.
He'll need that much to move the chains on the opening drive of the game, and Tom Higgins, I thought was going to go for it, but he's not going to take any chances early. And the punt unit comes on for the Stampeders. You surprised?
A little bit surprised, because inside of a yard it's almost automatic. However, there is wind here at Taylor Field, and right now the Calgary Stampeders have it at their back, so that may have factored into Tom Higgins' decision.
So Burke Dales is called upon. The rookie punter, 4th in the league, and there's Corey Holmes, the all-purpose leader. You heard the guys mention. Good game today would get him into top 3 all-time range in all-purpose yards in a single season. Had a return for a touchdown last week against Edmonton, but snuffed quickly there. 5-yard return, 46-yard punt by Dales. And the forgotten quarterback in all of this, former Stampeder quarterback, and a guy who has done a terrific job in getting Saskatchewan right back into the thick of things this year, Marcus Crandall.
Well, Marcus Crandall's start when he was on a roll, probably last week versus the Edmonton Eskimos, his worst week as the starter in Saskatchewan. But there's his receiving core. Elijah Thurman and Jamal Richardson have stepped it up over the last few weeks, and an offensive line maybe the best in the Canadian Football League.
Starting lineup brought to you by Tums. Tums tackles heartburn fast. Jamal Richardson taking that hitch and getting wrapped up and tossed back. Scott Coe there. wrestle him down. And of course, it's an active Calgary linebacking core.
Well, it certainly is. They play the 34 defense. There's the 3 down linemen led by Raheem Abdullah. Now Marcus Crandall for Saskatchewan has never faced this defense. He's played for Calgary, but never faced that linebacking core led by Ryan Clark and John Grace. And the secondary with some changes. Jermaine Chapman at halfback, Ben Kelly and Kobe Reinhart will play the corners.
7 on the opening completion of the game. Corey Holmes is the setback. Play action. Crandall rolling. And Crandall will run. And Marcus Crandall lunges across the 30 and has a first down.
Well, Marcus Crandall could really become a fan favorite in a hurry here in this province and in this stadium today if he can move this football and win the battle against Henry Burris. And you could see he's got a little jump in his step as he gets to the outside and picks up a first down.
5-2 as a starter for Saskatchewan this year. Of course, 4 years in Calgary, including a Grey Cup championship in 2001 when he was the Grey Cup MVP. Those numbers last week, his least impressive of his 7-game run as the Roughriders starter. 1st and 10. And here's Kenton Keith, and he is stopped quickly. John Grace.
Chris, all the talk about Henry Burris, all the talk about his return here to Taylor Field, and Marcus Crandall can make it all go away if he can change his record to 6-2 here this afternoon. The only quarterback over the since 2000, the year 2000, to have a winning record here as a starting quarterback in Saskatchewan.
You know, if you didn't understand the love affair between Burris and Rough Rider fans in the past, you'd have trouble wondering what's the stink with that record he had. Here's a great catch. Jason French breaks a tackle. He's across midfield, but there is a penalty marker on the play, and it looked like a Rough Rider was offside, and it may have been Jason French.
Well, certainly Marcus Crandall hasn't...
Offside. Calgary number 91. Penalties declined. First down.
Against Demetrius Maxey, Marcus Crandall hasn't had to deal with the media scrutiny that Henry Burris has throughout the last 7 days getting ready for this football game. And he's in there relaxed right now, just throwing strikes in series number 1 for him.
Gets a 24-yard gain. Remember French, July 23rd. In Calgary, he had 11 catches. One of only 3 100-yard receiving games for Saskatchewan this year. Sarka, the fullback, takes the screen across the 50 down to the 48. Brian Clark, the stop.
Versus the Montreal Alouettes a couple of games ago here at Taylor Field, Chris Zarka finally saw the football a little bit more. He had 60 yards rushing and really almost led the Saskatchewan Roughriders to victory. Anthony Calvillo brought Montreal back, and they ended up winning the final minute of that football game. But Zarka finally got involved in the offense.
2nd and 4, a 6-pack of receivers. Crandall the throw, and it's broken up. Jamal Richardson, the intended receiver.
Yeah, it looked like Jamal Richardson may have had to fight the sun coming off the corner of Taylor Field here. That was a slant route for Jamal Richardson to come back into the field to play, and the sun is coming from that direction. So he has to fight coverage from the Calgary Stampeders and the sun. It looked like he just lost the football.
So a couple of first downs for Saskatchewan as they work against the wind in the opening quarter. David Allen in to return this punt from McCallum. Randy Chevrier with the rush. Allen from his 16. And he is corralled quickly. Walter Spencer, the special teams leader, with the tackle. Spelling of your name.
They're on him again. Series number 2. It's just as loud.
Starting at the 20, Joffrey Reynolds, nothing doing. Reggie Hunt stepped up, and the linebacker fills the hole and makes his 53rd tackle of the year.
You saw Henry Burris there with his hands right around his mouth and his face mask as he was trying to call the signals. Things will change drastically for Burris in this game other than any other. You see his hands up there. He's got to try and get that football in the shotgun. He will also have to use hand signals here this afternoon to fight against the crowd noise to get his team moving to the line of scrimmage at the right time.
2nd and 8. Flag down. This play stopped by Dave Ewell as Jeff Pilon, the right tackle, jumped, and that's a product of the noise.
That's right, and that's exactly what the Calgary Stampeders will have to deal with.
Procedure, Calgary 64. 5-yard penalty, still 2nd down.
That's the 13th man, and that's the crowd knowing when to cheer and trying to make it tough on this offense, because now Pilon cannot hear Burris call for the football. So he's going to have to move to more physical signals, hand signals, try and get that ball snapped and everybody on the same page.
So what you're saying, it's louder here than Guns N' Roses was at McMahon.
Absolutely.
2nd and 17, another flag. Burris throwing incomplete, intended for Kenyon Rambo.
Now there is a flag, and Henry Burris may get a pass interference call down the field. He believes that there was some contact made on Kenyon Rambo.
Offside, Calgary number 80.
No.
Penalties decline, 3rd down.
I didn't think so either. And again, offside on the Calgary Stampeders, an indication as to how tough it's going to be to fight this crowd here this afternoon.
And this crowd is so knowledgeable. You know, they took full credit for that procedure call on Pilon, and as soon as it was announced, you could just hear the surge. They were giving themselves a hand. They know they've made an impact. So Holmes awaits. A pair of 2-and-outs with the win for Burris in his opening quarter. Dales drives. Holmes all the way back to his 30. But Corey Holmes is across the 50-yard line. Stopped at the 52. That's a 63-yard punt. 22 on the return.
15,000 voters right here that are all voting for me so far, Chris. It's interesting when you talk about this game being sold out. It has been sold out since October the 14th. 28,800 tickets sold, well over a week. There hasn't been a ticket to be had, and of course for the football teams the focus is winning. The Riders need to win their last 2 games, and of course they want to go through the West. Calgary has 3 games left to go. A chance at a home playoff date yet, but for the fans, this is about them and Henry Burris, Chris.
Yes, it would have been sold out earlier, but they were concerned when he went down with an injury that he might not be ready to come back. There's a completion. It's Elijah Thurman, who stays in the slot back position, even with Travis Moore coming into the Saskatchewan lineup.
Well, Travis Moore, they want to keep Elijah Thurman in there because when Travis Moore went out of the lineup, that's where they moved Elijah Thurman. He ended up being more effective and more valuable because he is closer, basically, to Marcus Crandall. So Thurman will stay inside of the slot. Now, Travis Moore is a natural slot back, so they'll play 3 receivers and both of them will play inside.
Thurman 28 yards from 1,000 on the season. Kenton Keith. And a terrific run by Keith down to the 37-yard line. Not much success for Saskatchewan on the ground in their first meeting against Calgary. Keith with just 27 yards against the Stamps.
Well, the 34 defense has often been a little susceptible to the run, but you're right, they really stepped it up against Kenton Keith in that first meeting. And the combination of Kenton Keith and Corey Holmes makes the Saskatchewan Roughriders that much more difficult. It's Corey Holmes in there now.
7 for Keith. It's 2nd and 3. Holmes will try and get it. And Corey Holmes hits a wall, and he gets drilled back. And there's John Grace once again. What an outstanding year again for Grace, the defensive player for the month of September.
And John Grace, one of the inside linebackers in that 34 defense, along with Brian Clark, and watch how he just slides to the point of attack. He's unblocked. He's unblocked because the 3 down linemen, Demetrius Maxey, Sheldon Napustuk, and Raheem Abdullah, they occupy the 5 offensive lineman blocks. That allows John Grace to scrape to the football.
3rd down and 3. And because they're going into the wind here at the 37, they're going to gamble. instead of a field goal attempt or a punt. Crandall underneath. They got it. Thurman with the first down catch. The drive will continue.
That's a tough catch for Elijah Thurman for two reasons. One is that the pressure of the situation. They need this right here. Quick curl route to Elijah Thurman. The other, though, is he's looking back in the sun that caused Jamal Richardson early on to drop one. So a tough catch to go down on the shoe tops to pull that one off the turf.
So Crandall is sharp in the opening quarter. 5 of 6 for 45 yards. And here's Holmes coming around. Now kicks it outside. At the 29-yard line, Ben Kelly stepped up and met Corey Holmes and limits the gain to 3.
Saskatchewan Roughriders would dearly love to control the football here through the running game. We've seen a steady dose of Kenton Keith and Corey Holmes. Number one, they commit, this football team, Saskatchewan, more to the run than any team in the Canadian Football League. But against this win, if they can control the clock now, eat up this quarter, it goes to their advantage.
Down to 5 minutes left. 2nd and 7. Crandall with great protection underneath. And a completion at the 25 will be short of the first down. Holmes with the catch.
But that may be close enough to put Paul McCallum on the field for a field goal attempt that's realistic. And therefore this time, Danny Barrett won't gamble because it's about the same distance on 3rd down here.
Crisply run offense in this opening quarter. And one of the reasons they call it the Prairie offense, because it's tailored to the kind of conditions we get today as they drive neatly into the wind and get it into range for McCallum. From the 32 with Rocky Butler holding. McCallum's made 9 of his last 10. Make it 10 of 11. First blood goes to Saskatchewan in the Burris Bowl against the wind in the opening half. So good ball control and a couple of 2-and-outs against Calgary. McCallum puts it in the air. Here's Allen, and he's hammered after catching the football at the 43-yard line. Well, Henry Burris has been the topic of conversation, and he realizes that all the fuss is because it was the end of a love affair when he went to Calgary.
It was more of a girlfriend, boyfriend breakup, really. That we had a great relationship here, and have the opportunity to experience doing things from the Providence and just the passion and love they showed for this team, and how it centered, all around this province. And despite where you went in this province, people knew who you were. From Grand Prairie to Estevan to Weyburn, Yorkton, no matter where you went, people knew who you were, and that's love. And it was hard to leave it. But again, the business part of this game is something that the part of the game I don't enjoy.
The fans are enjoying this. Folks in Grand Prairie didn't realize we're big Saskatchewan fans, but when you move to Alberta, you want to work the Albertans in too. He gets Nick Lewis for a completion and now sets up 2nd and 1 as they approach midfield and try and get this offense kick-started. And problems with the snap. Burris has to eat it. Back at the 38, and we didn't talk about it, but Jamie Crysdale is out with a knee problem. And Godfrey Ellis, the rookie, in on the shotgun snap, and Henry thought that he took an extra hit there that should have been flagged. He'll draw one instead.
Well, and now Henry Burris will get this crowd in even a bigger uproar because he's complaining about crowd noise. There is no penalty for crowd noise in the Canadian Football League unless it is prompted electronically by the score clock, and it hasn't been here this afternoon.
Unnecessary roughness. Saskatchewan number 7. 15-yard penalty. First down.
Well, he did win the argument. That flag didn't come out right away, and Burris looked like he was protesting that it should have been called. And now Danny Barrett's out there, and he's going to draw a flag. Barrett losing it on the bench because clearly, from this vantage point, that flag was not thrown until Burris argued the case, and from the point of view of Taylor Field, it appeared that Burris was getting the call for objecting. And
Objectionable conduct. Saskatchewan bench. 10-yard penalty. First down.
Yeah, without question. Danny Barrett thought that Burris was going to get called for yelling at the officials. He was arguing his point on Benefield. And I thought initially partly to do with this crowd. He wins that argument.
And there's the flag there.
Oh, baby.
How do you call that late? Rambo. And Rambo runs into the crowd.
The only way, now the only way that was not called, that it was not called on the hit, and it was called on something that David Benefield said, or when he tapped the back of Henry Burris's helmet right there in the huddle. And if that was the penalty, I don't blame Danny Barrett for being upset with it. Because clearly he didn't call David Benefield on the hit when he rolled over top of him.
Second and 5. Henry Erdy out. Nick Lewis has got it inside the 15. Lewis getting in behind David Bush.
And nothing will quiet this crowd quicker than a completion like that after this controversy for Henry Burris. And why not go to the dynamic slotback Nick Lewis? This is a great combination with Nick Lewis and Jermaine Copeland. And if the Calgary Stampeders are going to win this game this afternoon, that will be the combination they'll have to win their battles.
Biggest play of the game for Burris after back-to-back 15-yard penalties. 28 to Lewis. Now Reynolds coming around. And he's dropped at the 10-yard line. David Bush again on the tackle. Travis Smith in the neighborhood. The unheralded middle linebacker who has enjoyed his best season. So 5 for Reynolds, 2nd and 5. Stampeders threatening with just over a minute to go. Taylor Field's in an uproar. Lewis again. Check that, David Allen. The reserve running back to the 5, and he'll be close to a first down.
David Allen just couldn't get his shoulders turned towards the line of scrimmage and towards the goal line. And anytime any running back has to run laterally, it takes away all his effectiveness, because as long as the Calgary Stampeders have to run this direction, it's tough to get your shoulders downfield and get any type of momentum.
3rd and 1. Mullender and Rob Lazio, an offensive tackle, go in to beef up the line. Here's Reynolds. Stopped. Didn't get there. Snuffed. Reggie Hunt steps up, and they'll turn it over on downs unless they get a better spot than it would have appeared. I don't think we'll get a measurement. He had to get to the 4 and was met at the 5.
Chris, a slow developing play from the Calgary Stampeders. This is a new formation to have Joffrey Reynolds line up out here and bring him around, but it takes too much time for Calgary again to get Reynolds heading downhill and into the line of scrimmage. That allows Reggie Hunt a chance to step up and be right there when Joffrey Reynolds arrives. You can see the pulling offensive lineman coming around to try and help, but it takes some time to develop, and that time allows the Saskatchewan Roughriders to get in there and fill the hole.
So no points for Calgary with the win in this hostile environment in the opening quarter. This should be the final play. Roughriders from the 5. Kenton Keith. Kenton Keith to the 20. Rips off 15, and that'll improve the field position when Saskatchewan gets the win to start the second quarter. 3-0.
The Calgary Stampeders in the first quarter in the first down category is important for them in that they were going against the wind, and then that goal line stand taking the points off the board for Calgary, who is at least lined up for a field goal. Now Tom Higgins has to fight against the wind in this second quarter, which is the longer quarter.
Stampeders can run the table and finish second in the CFL West. Victory here in Winnipeg next week, and then against Edmonton. That's a tough road, but they do control their destiny in the race for second. First down, and high stepping is Kenton Keith again. Impressive back-to-back first down runs. Trey Young, the safety, has to make the tackle on the dangerous Kenton Keith.
Andrew Green is going to lead the way for Kenton Keith. He gets a great down block on the line of scrimmage, opens up a hole, and if Keith can keep his balance, it may be more of a one-on-one on him and Trey Young, because it's the safety Young who has to come up and make the tackle.
It is a first down. Keith now over 900 yards on the season. Last year, 1,154. And it is a dynamic 1-2 punch. These were the numbers coming into the game for this running back duo. First down. This time the fake to Keith. And underneath, Jason French has the catch and drops the football. And the Stampeders are on it.
And all of that strategy, Chris, when you talk about having the wind at your back and the field position battle, all goes out the window when the ball is turned over. Calgary Stampeders with a gold opportunity, the first big turnover of the game, meaning not just the one on downs, but a big turnover here on the French fumble.
So there's the contact. Scott Coe forces the fumble, and George White, another former Rider, comes up with a football. So after turning it over on downs, Stampeders get the ball back in Saskatchewan territory, and another procedure call. Big George White's been on a roll of late.
Calgary offensive line. 5-yard penalty. Still first down.
So it's an offside and a couple procedure calls already.
George White is one guy that can, because he's played in Labor Day in Regina, he's played in some big games, and he knows what the crowd can do here and how effective they can be in trying to distract the opponent. Probably talked to his teammates this week about dealing with this crowd noise.
First and 15 now. There's Reynolds. Hard running with a wide open hole for Joffrey Reynolds to get into the Saskatchewan secondary. And again, David Bush called upon, and if he's the guy making the tackle on Joffrey Reynolds, it's good news for Calgary.
Jeff Pilon and Tyler Robertson are the two guys that have the key block because it's on Nate Davis right here. Nate Davis is the key in the Saskatchewan run defense. If you can control Nate Davis and Scott Schultz, you can have success running the football. And Robertson and Pilon got Davis out of there.
Second down. And this time Benefield brings Reynolds down, but it is a first down.
Chris, Nate Davis and David Benefield were two players not in the lineup when Joffrey Reynolds had 150 yards rushing against Saskatchewan. Nate Davis will control it in the middle. David Benefield, his job is to use his speed and quickness and try and catch Joffrey Reynolds from behind. We'll watch that matchup, especially considering Nate Davis is up against Godfrey Ellis at center.
That was impressive. First and 15 and 2 runs by Reynolds, and they get a fresh set of downs. Back to Reynolds again. Takes it to the 20. Close to 5 more before the middle linebacker, Travis Smith, in on the stop.
Chris, Joffrey Reynolds also takes the crowd out of it and takes a little bit of pressure away from Henry Burris. If he continues to just hand the football off and can have success pounding it up in the middle, working the perimeter with Joffrey Reynolds, it can start to take the crowd out of this a little bit.
Only Charles Roberts has rushed for more yards this season. Second and 7. Burris into the end zone, and this one is picked off. TJ Stansel. No, they're going to rule incomplete as Stansel in front of Marte Jenkins made the defensive play.
Well, Marte Jenkins becomes defensive back because of the position from TJ Stansel. He is in the trail position on Marte Jenkins and in a perfect spot. because Henry Burris has to throw into the wind, and because he has to throw into the wind, Stansel knows one thing. It's going to be tough for him to get it up and over top to Marte Jenkins, so he's in perfect position, but you can see the ball definitely touch the ground.
Clearly on the turf. And now from 29 yards out, Sandro DeAngelis, and he's got it. The rookie hasn't missed from under 30 this year. And these fans have made an impact on the game already. 3 calls against the Calgary offense when Noise probably was the disruption. We're tied at 3 after the Saskatchewan turnover and the DeAngelis field goal. This one hangs up in the wind, and Holmes has it. And Corey Holmes with some room and steps out near midfield. And he has been the story this year in the CFL and returning. And a week ago in Edmonton, his 3rd touchdown return of the season.
Well, Danny Barrett said all week that Corey Holmes really should be considered as one of the leading candidates for most valuable player coming out of the West in the Canadian Football League this year. He's averaging 197 all-purpose yards per game coming into this one, and if he has a pretty good game today, could move into 3rd place in the all-time list.
And he's got Schultz's vote. Here's Marcus Crandall, airing it out, and off to Thurman. Drops the football. Marcus Crandall took the hit, but delivered the goods.
Boy, did he ever. That was a perfect throw. Now he has the wind at his back, and Elijah Thurman going right down that seam, stuck with it. It actually hits both of his hands. Joey Bosse had rotated from his halfback position, and it was playing free safety and cut underneath that and almost misjudged it. But he did get enough of Thurman just to distract him. That ball comes out of there.
Last 2 home games, 15 catches for Thurman. 2nd and 10. Rush on. Crandall looks to the far side, and he has Travis Moore at the 50. It'll be about a yard short of the 1st down. Travis Moore, another former Stampeder, and those two are familiar with each other from their old Calgary days. Moore getting back into the lineup for the first time in 9 games.
Travis Moore, important to recognize defense. Is one of those veterans that will be able to help Marcus Crandall out when it comes to picking up the blitzes that Calgary loves to run with their linebacking core.
Marked it at the 49, so it'll be 3rd down and pairs. And Paul McCallum in to punt and try and pin Calgary deep. Allen wisely lets it bounce into the end zone, and it's going to be a single point on the McCallum 68-yard punt. 4-3 Saskatchewan. China. Calgary takes over 35-yard line. Burris underneath. And this ball comes loose, and Stansel picks it up, and Saskatchewan gets a turnover as Marte Jenkins drops the ball.
Because this is a game of such emotion, it's emotion that's really turning the tide both ways right now. The Calgary Stampeders, with their turnover, come up with 3 points. We'll see what Saskatchewan can do with this turnover. Marte Jenkins trying to fight for the extra yards. You see it all the time, and that 3rd and 4th effort is when that ball comes out of there, and it looked like Travis Smith, the middle linebacker, is the guy who pulls it out. TJ Stansel comes up with the fumble recovery.
Stansel in for Jackie Mitchell, and a week ago in Edmonton he came up with 9 tackles and was a runner-up for Defensive Player of the Week. So that's the kind of depth Saskatchewan has had this season. A big play, and a Calgary Stampeder is down. Looks like one of the big offensive linemen.
First, when there's nothing
but a slow, glowing dream
that your fear seems to hide
deep inside your mind. What a feeling!
Yeah! Bids believing! Yeah!
I
27-year veteran Jay McNeil, the left guard and the best offensive lineman of the Stampeders, getting attention from Pat Clayton.
Yeah, Tom Higgins told us that he grades out better than any offensive lineman on the team, and he's going to have to take a break. Hopefully for Calgary, he can come back. Looks like he's going to be okay. They have already had to take and move Godfrey Ellis to center for Jamie Crysdale. Jay McNeil would play right beside Crysdale, so they don't want to miss him for too many plays. And now beside Godfrey Ellis.
Now on the fumble recovery, Saskatchewan takes over at the Stamp 41. And Crandall has Travis Moore! Travis Moore, touchdown! Welcome back to the lineup.
It's called sudden change. When a turnover occurs, the offense always wants to strike quickly because it can grab so much momentum. And Chris, you talked about the chemistry between Marcus Crandall and Travis Moore. And Crandall locked right into Travis Moore, knowing with the coverage that he was presented with that Moore would find that open area in the corner, and he did.
41 yards for a frustrated veteran who is closing in on 10,000 in his career, but wasn't sure he'd get a chance to add to his totals this season. Left on the bench for 8 games, but he's back, and Saskatchewan has the lead. Roughrider, but 2 former Stampeders conspire on the first major of the game.
Marcus Crandall, perfect strike to Travis Moore. He locked into him from start to finish.
Line drive kickoff, David Allen. In his second game, Darnell Edwards there to greet him at the 26-yard line.
Marcus Crandall has flown in under the radar with all the hype focused on Henry Burris, but he's putting together a very good afternoon already. 9 of 12, 113 yards. That great throw to Travis Moore, his former teammate, the Calgary Stampeders. And, you know, to Travis Moore's credit, through all of this time when he has been practicing with the football team, he's under the hood right there trying to stay warm. He has not complained once.
First down Stamps, the pitch to Reynolds. And Reynolds stacked up. Couldn't turn it upfield. And a host of Green Riders in the neighborhood. Fred Perry, TJ Stansel leading the posse.
Yeah, and run defense is about 12 defenders, not just defensive line and linebackers. And Ladavius McCalla, the corner right there in your screen, he comes up and blows it up right at the point of attack. Doesn't allow Joffrey Reynolds out to the outside. And that makes the play for the Saskatchewan defense.
Blew it up real good. Second and 10. Unloads, and well short of the target. Closest man to it was a Rough Rider, intended, we think, for Jermaine Copeland.
And he wasn't close, and it's surprising that Henry Burris there didn't try to run with the football once he broke the first tackle, because he did have an opening down the field. And in 2nd and 10, probably picks up the first down. And he did tell us yesterday that he wanted to run the football, and that's what Steve Barato just indicated to him with the fingers. Run it if you got the opening.
Let your fingers do the walking, or running in this case. And now Burke Dales has to kick into the wind. Holmes awaits. And that kick bouncing across midfield. Holmes will get the no yards call. Saskatchewan's going to have the football in Calgary territory when we come back. Well, you can see how close the crowd is behind that Calgary bench, where they'll be making life difficult all day for Henry Burris. And life gets more difficult for the Stampeders. A 15-yard no yards interference call puts the ball at the Calgary 40. Kenton Keith got outside, turned it up for a few before he ran out of room. Terrence Patrick forced him out of off the field.
Chris, I just mentioned that run defense is the responsibility of everyone on defense, including the secondary. And right now, the Calgary secondary are in a bit of a bind. The success of Kenton Keith and Corey Holmes running the football have caused them to be more aware of the run, and that's why Travis Moore on that last series got open in behind him. It's now taking their attention away from their #1 responsibility, which is pass coverage.
2nd and 5. Crandall delivers. Thurman the catch and a first down, and he gets to the 26. Wes Lysak bringing down E.T.
Different formation for Marcel Belfait to bunch up the receivers right here. There's Corey Holmes, and you can see how you get a little bit of a bunch with Jamal Richardson coming in, and then Elijah Thurman just being the drop-off player underneath. Tough for Calgary defenders to get through that bunch to get to Thurman.
12 for Thurman, and now Crandall's passed for more yards than all of last week in Edmonton. And looks for more. And he's got Jamal Richardson at the 11-yard line, and the drive continues. They had a touchdown after a fumble recovery, and now they're trying to get right back into the end zone in the next series.
Well, this time they put 2 receivers to the wide side, and they try and isolate Brian Clark, who's going to be a little wide as they get that inside route underneath. You can see Elijah Thurman pushes the outside, and here comes Jamal Richardson. Now, Brian Clark had got so much depth thinking of Elijah Thurman that he allowed Richardson to come in underneath him.
Holmes to the bench. Kenton Keith shuttles in the play. First down at the 11. Crandall. It's caught. And forced out is Keith at the 1. So Keith brought in his own play.
Danny Barrett and Marcel Belfait throwing the football more now with the wind at their back, taking advantage of that wind and the fact that they've got great field position in this second quarter. Little dump off play to Kenton Keith.
They're sizing up whether or not that's a first down, and it might be better for Danny Barrett if it's not. Could give them an extra play, and it is that short, so it'll be 2nd down. Inches to go for a first down, and it could effectively give you 4 cracks to put it into the end zone.
Well, that first down marker is so close to the goal line, it's almost... But I believe you're right. Like, he could get a first down.
And 3 more plays.
And 3 more plays if they don't get it here. Calgary defense. The ball will always drop back to that 1-yard line, no matter how close they get.
So 2nd and inches, but they're looking at just over a yard, and Crandall, touchdown. In behind Jeremy O'Day, Andrew Green in his 100th game. And the big chill, Fred Childress.
It's all about leverage and how low the offensive line can get versus the defensive line and linebacking core. And Brian Clark and Scott Coe trying to fight over the top, meaning they had lost leverage on that play. The low man wins on plays like that.
And right now the Roughriders riding high. McCallum adds the extra point. A 6-play touchdown drive. 18-3. Colorado to meet the Avalanche. And I wasn't sure that the season series was going to be a factor after Calgary won the opener 44-18 and had a 26-point lead. But it's 18-3, and I know it's early, and Calgary by no means is out of it, but Marcus Crandall and company have just cut 15 points off that season series.
Yeah, and you know that both teams won't be thinking about that until way late into the game, but it is something to think about if you're Saskatchewan trying to catch up in that point differential. The Calgary Stampeders right now dearly need Henry Burris to put together 3-4 first downs and just settle this team down a little bit.
There is a chance that Saskatchewan still can have a home field playoff game. They need to win here and in their final game, and a combination that would set up a 3-way tie between Edmonton, Saskatchewan, and Calgary. And Saskatchewan would win that tiebreaker if everything fell right, because they would have the best record within the Western Division, and that would be the first tiebreaker in a three-way tie.
Clear as mud for me, partner.
Yeah, I thought I'd confuse you a bit. David Allen stopped at the 25-yard line. Dustin Chernovsky with the special teams tackle, his 18th of the year.
Well, Steve Barato in the last series, his instructions to Henry Burris were to run the football if it opens up. We'll see if he does that in this series. The passing game just not on track just yet for Burris. Now, last week in his first game back from injury, Steve Barato changed things up formation-wise and went to the quick passing game to help him get into a rhythm. We'll see if he does it now.
He's one of only 3 quarterbacks this year to pass for 300 yards plus against this tough Saskatchewan defense. Blitz Reggie Hunt, but a catch is made up at the 40-yard line. So he stood in there and he found Nick Lewis, even with Reggie Hunt bearing down.
Reggie Hunt timed it up perfectly. He stayed back long enough so that Burris didn't count him in the blitz, and then just as they're getting into that snap cadence, he comes off the edge and is right there, but tremendous recognition from Nick Lewis to turn around and give his quarterback a target before he got hit.
14 for Lewis and a first down at the 40. And that ball tipped as Burris delivered.
Chris, there's great matchups all over the field in this game between these two teams. None better than the slot backs for the Calgary Stampeders against the inside defenders for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Jermaine Copeland and Nick Lewis coming into this week were the #1 combination at slot back in the Canadian Football League, just ahead of Geroy Simon and Jason Claremont. Lewis right now 3 catches, 51 yards. Copeland is looking for his first of the game.
Jay McNeil is in. Back in right guard, 2nd and 10. Burris looked for Copeland and off the grill as he turned to look for it. And Jermaine laughs about that one. And
Copeland was trying to work the inside position, and he had it right here. You can see Eddie Davis is hanging on the outside shoulder, knowing he's got free safety help, but Copeland had to turn quicker. He just had to get inside and get his head around. Didn't do it in time, and Burris put it right off his ear hole.
Early, what I'm saying, I'm trying to set a safety, and I don't want to just run in there and, either get a pick or get blew up. Or just on the hook.
That's what Jermaine Copeland just said. I saw the safety deep, so I've got to turn up, and Burris said, well, just run the hook earlier.
Dale's off the side of his foot. Flutters and holds. Alertly gets the no yards. We've got another penalty back at the line of scrimmage, just a 25-yard punt into the wind. So 2 penalties, 1 no yards against Calgary. What's the other call? Crandall anticipating good field position again with 3:46 remaining in this opening half.
The last 2 times these teams met, you mentioned it, Chris, 44-18 the final for Calgary. Yes, Saskatchewan went through some injuries at that time, but the Stampeders played maybe their best game on defense to that point in the season. That was basically for them the 4th game of the Canadian Football League season for Tom Higgins' group. He felt his defense really stepped up.
Saskatchewan 42. No yards. Calgary 42, which is a 15-yard penalty. Net 5 yards difference. First down.
And that game really was Henry Burris's coming out party in Calgary. He got off to a slower start, but he ran for 2 touchdowns in that game, passed for 2 more, and really got the Calgary offense ignited. So they start at the 49 after the 2 penalties, and it's dumped off Jason French. Kobe Reinhardt greets him at the 51, short gain.
And you start to get the sense right now the Calgary Stampeders really need to make not just a stop here, but a big play on defense, and they are certainly capable of it with George White, Brian Clark, John Grace and Scott Coe alone. Some guys that can fly around and make that big play, the fumble recovery, the interception.
And I know this is a theory, but I don't think Nealon Green was ever the same after that game that Burris upstaged him at McMahon. Marcus Crandall was hardly in the picture at that point, but he is a key factor now, and he finds French for first half at Taylor Field, where Henry Burris has heard a lot of noise and has been held in check by the Saskatchewan defense, while Marcus Crandall steals the headlines and dumps it off to Ken Keith out of the backfield. He'll twist and turn and get stopped at the 45-yard line. Well, Crandall has been the story of this first half. How does Calgary now deal with this hot Saskatchewan quarterback?
Well, with that 34 defense, the Calgary Stampeders have the ability to send pressure from different areas, and that's what's great about a 34 is it can surprise an offensive line with linebackers moving around. They need to pressure Crandall a lot more to get him off his rhythm right now.
No gain on the last play. 2nd and 10. 4 receivers wide side. Crandall looking that way, looking for Jason French, and it's over his head, and Crandall was jolted as he released the football.
Well played by Ben Kelly out at the corner for the Calgary Stampeders, and what he does is drops out of his zone to help out on that corner route and make it tough. Right here is Ben Kelly. His zone is right in this area, but what he's going to do is read the quarterback. He sees the quarterback's going to throw it deep. Look at him fall off. Falls off underneath that corner route, and that's almost impossible for Crandall to drop it into French there.
Paul McCallum, his longest of the year, 46. They're going to try this from 53. David Allen awaits if McCallum is unsuccessful. Paul McCallum on a roll, his 2nd of the day. And now 11 of 12 with his longest of the year, 52. It's an 18-point Saskatchewan lead.
Paul McCallum struggled out of the gate. But you mentioned earlier, Chris, been on fire in the last 4 games, coming in 9 of 10, nails a long one there. And he's climbing up the list for field goal percentage.
I remember a few weeks ago you had him under your 70% line. That's what you feel is important, and he went into the game at 73%. It's improved now with 2 more. So Calgary has 2:08 left, and Henry Burris is going to use their timeout to regroup along with Steve Barato along the sidelines. One thing needs something positive before the half.
And that would mean, and when they do need something positive in the past, they've gone to Nick Lewis or Jermaine Copeland in inside slot back positions, and we saw indications of that in the last series. And in fact, that Copeland turned around and went off his helmet. He just didn't read it fast enough, but he was the intended target. See if Burris goes back to him here.
Burris down. Dropped by Scott Schultz, and the Moose Jaw stopped for the first time today.
Well, you think the crowd loves this. Godfrey Ellis in for Jamie Crysdale's got his hands full in this one. If it's not Nate Davis in there he's lined up on, it's going to be Scott Schultz. Scott Schultz goes around him, fights the double team with McNeil and Taylor Robertson, and gets home.
Career high 9th sack for the big defensive tackle. He had 6 tackles last week in Edmonton, a big total for an inside guy. And we get more flags. Gauthier, again, the noise a problem, and the right tackle may have moved prematurely.
And on that last play, Henry Burris looked like he had a little time initially and was looking for the slot backs. And on that play, when he was sacked and Scott Schultz got there, Eddie Davis and David Bush were both in perfect position on the slot backs, and that just wraps up that matchup I'm talking about. If Henry Burris wants to convert this.
Calgary 56, 5-yard penalty, still second down.
He's going to have to go against the strength of the Saskatchewan secondary, which is Eddie Davis.
So it was Gauthier who moved. That's what, 4 now that we can credit the 13th man. All 28,800 of them. Burris pumps. And one. It's got a long way to go. And lunges up across the 40 to the 42. He had to get to the 45. So a long run by Burris, but not quite long enough.
Henry Burris was looking that time to Jermaine Copeland, I believe, at the far side, and he was tied up with Eddie Davis. Eddie Davis is right here, number 29. He's going to get up and get physical. Excuse me, it was Nick Lewis. And see how he turns in with the trail. He knows he has Darnell Edwards over top, so he can stay underneath. That's the guy that Henry Burris wanted to go to. Nick Lewis, one of the slot backs, and Eddie Davis was right there.
Second run of the first half for Burris. He has 22 yards rushing. Corey Holmes awaits. Dale's punt. Hangs up again in the air. Holmes got the flag. No yards again. And that'll be 15 against Calgary after a 30-yard punt. Well, Patricia Arquette stars in a new episode of Medium. It comes your way tomorrow at 9 o'clock, 8 Central on CTV. Minute 11 remaining, first half at Taylor Field.
Well, you can sure tell that this is an educated crowd, and you know, this is for all the people watching across the country too. Good indication as how you can really help your football team and what home field advantage means in the game of football. You see how they have quieted down a little bit now. Now the camera, they're going to jump up for the camera, but they're quieting down when Marcus Crandall has the football. And the moment Burris walks on the field, boy, it is an uproar. So that can really help a football team. Chris, you mentioned the 4 procedure calls against the Calgary offense.
Riders can do some more damage here. And a big gain here as Richardson takes it into Stampeder territory at the 45-yard line. They've still got 65 seconds on the clock.
Calgary Stampeders have not come with that blitz too much in this first half, and be surprised if that's what they talk about at halftime. They somehow have to try and get Marcus Crandall out of his rhythm. Denny Crehan right now is calling a lot of zone defenses and dropping linebackers Brian Clark and John Grace and not getting them up after Marcus Crandall.
3 receivers to either side. First and 10 underneath. And the catch is made. Thurman's got it.
See, that's another 4-man rush from the Calgary defensive line with Brian Clark dropping into the zone and Marcus Crandall throwing it just underneath that zone defense. And that chess match between offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator continues. Marcel Belfait for Saskatchewan and Denny Crehan for the Calgary Stampeders.
7 for Thurman. 2nd and 3. Crandall, another quick hitter. French has got the first down, and the ball pulled loose, and Calgary gets on it. And you can hear the official, no question about it. The Stamps got on it quickly after it was ripped out of the hands of Jason French.
Well, if you're controlling the chess match as a coordinator, you still have to have your pawns, your men, your soldiers go out and execute. And this was a first down for the Saskatchewan Roughriders, but this is the human element of the game of football. While this game plan from Marcel Belfait looked to be taking advantage of Denny Crehan's defense, you can't draw this up. You can't draw it up. A great play by the Calgary defense and George White to rip it out of there.
Absolutely. White with a fumble recovery and now a forced fumble. And it avoids any further damage that Marcel Belfait wanted to inflict in the opening half. Right off the edge again. A Burris wide open. Nick Lewis has got him. He had to come back for the football. And he's dropped at the 32-yard line. In no wind conditions, that would probably have been a touchdown.
Well, Jeff Pilon, I believe, just gets to Reggie Hunt on the outside. He's coming on the blitz. And number 64, the right tackle, Jeff Pilon, right here. He just gets enough of him, because if he doesn't get there, Hunt makes this hit and this throw doesn't happen. But Burris steps up and finds a wide open Nick Lewis.
45 yards. Burris has an open man. Brett Ralph stepped out. And Henry Burris now answering back-to-back big completions.
Well, that's composure for Henry Burris. He's now fighting off this crowd. He's getting into a rhythm of his own. He stepped into that pocket, avoided the rush, hit Nick Lewis, he hits Brett Ralph, and he's got things going now for Calgary.
45 to Lewis, 20 to Ralph. They've moved it 65 at the 11-yard line with 8 seconds to go. Should have 2 cracks at it.
Dave, look at that passing yardage for Saskatchewan, 187. If that even stays the same and those rushing yards get close, the Riders are going to win this second half. They're going to win this game.
Danny Barrett's got to be happy with the first half. He spoke with our Ray Morrison.
First of all, Danny, talk to me about your defense with a huge goal line stand after some adversity, and then Stansel with a huge fumble recovery.
Well, our guys are playing the type of football that we know we can play, and I think that's the key. You know, we just got to continue to, do what we're supposed to and not have breakdowns like we did here at the end of the half.
What about your vertical game? Nice pass to Travis Moore. Talk to me about the passing game this time around.
Well, everybody's been talking about with ball control. We got to establish the run, and, Marcus struggled last week. We don't buy into all of that, What we need to do is continue to make plays and play with the confidence that we have, and we can run away with this thing.
Good stuff. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
Run away with it. Well, right now they're running away with it, although a late fumble made it a little closer. Here's Marcus Crandall plunging it over the goal line. 21-6 second half.
Burris left, but they like what they saw in the first half against the Calgary Stampeders. Tom Higgins didn't. He's with Ray Morrison.
Well, Tom, they dominated for most of the first half. You did start to get something going in the final 2-3 minutes of the second quarter. Talk to me about what you said to your team here at the break.
Well, the last drive was going to be, it was important for us. The wind is a factor. The crowd is a factor. We're hurting ourselves. We're not as disciplined as we're going to have to make some plays. So third quarter in my mind is going to be the one that's going to determine whether we're going to have a chance here in the end in the fourth quarter.
Did you talk to Henry at all in the break?
Oh, sure. We always talk.
And what did he say?
He's ready to go. He's got to be helped, because again, we can't put ourselves in negative situations all the time. We got to be a little bit more disciplined. We got to handle the crowd better. We got to secure the ball. We can't turn it over. We got to create turnovers. He's okay. He's ready to go for the next 30 minutes.
Thanks for this.
You're welcome.
Well, that last series did indicate that Burris was able to make something happen with 65 yards on 2 completions, but then they bogged down at the 11.
Well, interesting, Tom Higgins saying, handle the crowd better. Clearly with 5 procedure calls, he was talking about the negative situation. So success on first down for the Calgary Stampeders, and then the turnover battle. Tom Higgins mentioning they got to start creating some on defense.
Stampeders won the toss and opted to take the wind in the fourth quarter, so they'll try and keep this as close as they can and hope they can capitalize with the wind in the final quarter of this game. Corey Holmes back again during the half, received the most popular player award here in Saskatchewan. DeAngelis. Kickoff that sends Holmes back to the 22, and Holmes finds some room. DeAngelis knocked it loose, and John Grace is on it. Sandro DeAngelis, the kicker, forces the fumble.
And John Grace is right in the perfect position, and Tom Higgins gets his wish. He talked about it at halftime. Head coach of the Calgary Stampeders said they've got to start creating turnovers, and he gets one out of a guy who uncharacteristically puts the ball on the ground in Corey Holmes. And Sandro DeAngelis, number 12, with the hit right there, tackles the football.
And he danced off and showed some footwork that, well, you know he's a kicker when you can dance like that. John Grace with his 3rd recovery, 2nd against Saskatchewan. Let's see if the Stamps can change the complexion of this day. Reynolds. And he'll push the pile to the 45 and get 4.
Well, it was all about Henry Burris coming into this game, and Henry Burris had half of his yardage throwing the football in the last 2 plays of the first half. The game has become about Marcus Crandall, who is winning this battle in the head-to-head matchup between Henry Burris and Crandall. 187 yards. You heard Chris Schultz talk about it at halftime. He gets another 187. Saskatchewan wins this game, but he's going to have to wait for Burris on this one.
2nd and 6. With some room. Kenyon Rambo inside the 20-yard line to the 16, the man who scored his first CFL touchdown against Saskatchewan.
Protection for Henry Burris is the reason this play is allowed to happen, because Rambo has to come across, weave through all this mess, and then get outside of Travis Smith, the middle linebacker. And for that to happen, Burris needs a few steamboats in there. So he's got 4 or 5, drop it over the middle, and you can see Travis Smith is in a chase position.
Stampeders threatening. Reynolds. And he's met after a short gain. Scott Schultz there to make the play from his defensive tackle position.
Steve Barato and the Calgary offense in the first half had to struggle with crowd noise. They had problems with illegal procedure calls, and because of that had to settle for field goals. Now they've already come out in this second half and controlling the crowd noise a little bit better, or at least dealing with it.
I think you just cued them. 2nd and 8. Big blitz. Burris hangs into the end zone, and it's knocked down. David Bush with the defensive play.
Well, David Bush does it at that end, Chris. Joffrey Reynolds does it at the other end, because if Joffrey Reynolds doesn't step up here, then Henry Burris is on his back. Watch the blitz pickup, because there's a free man, Travis Smith, coming right down the middle. Or excuse me, Kitwana Jones is the linebacker in and replacing Travis Smith. He comes down the middle, and he is picked up on that blitz by Joffrey Reynolds.
So the Saskatchewan defense forces this field goal situation. DeAngelis from 22. Mike Chuha is the holder, and it's good. So after the fumble caused by DeAngelis, he caps it with 3. Scott Schultz said they'd be like crazed dogs in the crowd today. They're enjoying the festivities in a 12-point lead. This kick up for grabs here. That ball loose, still on the carpet. And Saskatchewan gets on it, but with the wind, it makes things interesting on those kickoffs.
Yeah, it does. It's called a sky ball, and when you kick into the wind, you kick that ball high, and it's a lot stronger than that there. That's a better indication of how strong the wind is. You kick that ball into the wind, it'll hang up there, and Chris Zarka had to wait on it, was actually tackled in the open field. I believe it was Pascal Masson who brought him down.
TJ Stansel had a shot at it. Looks like Corey Holmes made the recovery.
That was borderline interference on Masson.
And that's what Danny Barrett is claiming. Roughriders
winning this battle in the head-to-head matchup between Henry Burris and Crandall. 187 yards. You heard Chris Schultz talk about it at halftime. He gets another 187. Saskatchewan wins this game, but he's going to have to wait for Burris on this one.
2nd and 6. Burris, Rambo with some room. Kenyon Rambo inside the 20-yard line to the 16, the man who scored his first CFL touchdown against Saskatchewan.
Protection for Henry Burris is the reason this play is allowed to happen, because Rambo has to come across, weave through all this mess, and then get outside of Travis Smith, the middle linebacker. And for that to happen, Burris needs a few steamboats in there. So he's got 4 or 5, drop it over the middle, and you can see Travis Smith is in a chase position. Stampeders threatening.
Reynolds. And he's met after a short gain. Scott Schultz there to make the play from his defensive tackle position.
Steve Barato and the Calgary offense in the first half had to struggle with crowd noise. They had problems with the legal procedure calls, and because of that had to settle for field goals. Now they've already come out in this second half and controlling the crowd noise a little bit better, or at least dealing with it.
I think you just cued them. Second and 8. Big blitz. Burris hangs into the end zone, and it's knocked down. David Bush with the defensive play.
Well, David Bush does it at that end, Chris. Joffrey Reynolds does it at the other end, because if Joffrey Reynolds doesn't step up here, then Henry Burris is on his back. Watch the blitz pickup, because there's a free man, Travis Smith, coming right down the middle. Or excuse me, Kitwana Jones is the linebacker in and replacing Travis Smith. He comes down the middle, and he is picked up on that blitz by Joffrey Reynolds.
So the Saskatchewan defense forces this field goal situation. DeAngelis from 22. Mike Chuha is the holder, and it's good. So after the fumble caused by DeAngelis, he caps it with 3. Scott Schultz said they'd be like crazed dogs in the crowd today. They're enjoying the festivities in a 12-point lead. This kick up for grabs here. That ball loose, still on the carpet. And Saskatchewan gets on it, but with the wind, it makes things interesting on those kickoffs.
Yeah, it does. It's called a sky ball, and when you kick into the wind, you kick that ball high, and it's a lot stronger than that. That's a better indication of how strong the wind is. If you kick that ball into the wind, it'll hang up there, and Chris Zarka had to wait on it, was actually tackled in the open field. I believe it was Pascal Masson who brought him down.
TJ Stansel had a shot at it. Looks like Corey Holmes made the recovery.
That was borderline interference on Masson.
And that's what Danny Barrett is claiming. Roughriders have fumbled the ball 3 times in the game, and Calgary has scored a field goal on each recovery. With the wind, Crandall goes to work. And he has Jason French, who has fumbled twice. Up at the 50, Ben Kelly with the tackle.
On that chest match between Marcel Belfay and Denny Crehan, you have to give the edge so far to Belfay, who's criticized this week for some of his play calling versus the Edmonton Eskimos a week ago. But his offense has produced a couple field goals, a couple of touchdowns in that first half. And Marcus Crandall's in a groove right now.
2nd and 4 from the 50. Pressure, and Kobe Reinhardt came off the edge, but looks like he got a piece of face mask. Check that, Brian Clark. And Clark can't believe it as the flag is tossed.
We'll have to take another look, but this is what we talked about going into the halftime for the Calgary Stampeders on defense.
Major foul, piling on. Calgary 92.
Okay.
15-yard penalty.
It's Napastic, not Clark. Clark got him first, and the North Battleford, Saskatchewan native Sheldon Napastic gets the call.
Well, there's Brian Clark right here. He's going to come off the edge. He's the guy who gets the sack. Oh, excuse me, that was White that went on the inside stunt. Clark came out and around to get the sack. Now let's see. I don't know about that.
Yeah, Sheldon's shaking his head.
Penalty, first down.
Well, clearly you have to protect the quarterbacks, and the question was, could Sheldon Napastic come down, slow down from falling on the quarterback? He kind of just laid on Marcus Crandall, and Brian Clark couldn't believe it. Of course, he initially thought the penalty was against him.
It is a first down. They move it to the 54 of Calgary, and Chris Zarka. Not much there. Back to the line of scrimmage. And nothing more.
Let's take a look one more time at that piling on penalty, because key play for the Calgary Stampeders depending on what happens in this drive. And now Clark is going to end up here. He's going to come around. He gets the blitz, and just watch at the end of this if this constitutes piling on and roughing the passer. Pustek looked like he was going down anyway and just kind of fell on him. That's a borderline call at best.
Here's Crandall drilling it, but incomplete. Thurman couldn't hang on. And that'll force the punt unit on for Saskatchewan.
Yeah, there was a window there for Elijah Thurman, but Scott Coe, dropping from the linebacking core, he closed that window in a hurry. And he gets his hand in there and gets the football out. Scott Coe was way outside in the flat. You could see John Grace was the inside zone, and Scott Coe outside, and Coe closed the distance in a hurry.
Now McCallum to punt. David Allen back, and McCallum wants to make sure this stays in the field of play. Allen stepped up, and he'll get it, and they'll mark it at the 18-yard line, a 40-yard kick. Stampeders now within one of the league lead.
17 of those 44 Calgary sacks coming from the linebacking core.
Paul McCallum didn't want to kick it through the end zone for one. He wanted the Stamps to have to start inside their 20. Got the job done, and now Reynolds with a gain of about 3.
Tom Higgins and the Calgary Stampeders won the toss, so they deferred in the second half and have decided to take the wind in the fourth quarter. That turnover and 3 points would normally be momentum for the opposition. That was momentum for Calgary because it was into the wind. If they can sustain a drive here and eat up this quarter, it's huge for the Stampeders.
Looking at 2nd and 6. And a ball is caught up at the 44-yard line. Kenyon Rambo with the catch.
Well, and Kenyon Rambo, he thought he was going to pay dirt, and Henry Burris was trying to throw the throw behind, and Kenyon Rambo has to throw on the break from the outside. And he just gets his hands underneath that football. Good catch and good call by the officials to mark it as a catch immediately.
You know, we've talked about the 13th man today, and what a tough place this would be to come for a playoff game. And Saskatchewan's been waiting since '88 for one of those. First down, good fake to Reynolds, but it didn't fool him. Stancil tripping him up. They're going to call grounding the football.
Well, they're going to talk about it. The flag always comes out immediately, and then they make sure there was no receiver. The ball didn't cross the line of scrimmage, so it could be called grounding. If it crosses the line of scrimmage, it's automatic to wave it off.
There's no infraction on the play. The intended receiver was 84.
Okay, Monte Jenkins was in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
I wasn't convinced that TJ Stancil didn't have Burris's knee down before he unloaded.
Well, that's why the crowd was upset. Not that it was ruled that there was no penalty on the play, but was he down first before he threw it? Looked like that left knee was very close before it came out of there, and that's why the crowd is upset that wasn't called a sack.
But a heads-up play by Burris to avoid taking the sack. So instead, it's 2nd and 10. Had time initially, and now takes off, and Henry Burris gets the first down across midfield.
Well, we had to wait till the third quarter to see this game plan start to come to fruition, because Henry Burris told us about running the football, and you could hear the crowd, the volume in the crowd just was turned down about 3 decibels as soon as he took off and had that first down, because number one, he's public enemy number 1, and everyone wants to see him get hit here in Taylor Field, and he got the first down for the Calgary Stampeders.
Reynolds right side. Godfrey Reynolds to the 45. Travis Smith, the middle linebacker.
Well, this is a big, big drive for Henry Burris, because now we're hearing a little momentum swings in crowd noise. That's number 1. Number 2, they're going into a strong wind, and that's a couple of first downs from Steve Barato's group that eats up this third quarter. Now 7:28, and the clock is running.
Davis stays in the game, but he was limping after that last Reynolds carry. 2nd and 4. Pressure, Reggie Hunt again, but over the middle, it's a completion. And Marte Jenkins lunging over the 30, and this drive continues.
You know, Henry Burris got to get a ton of credit right now. He's got to deal with a whole bunch of things in this football game. First of all, the hype coming into it. He's had to try and deal with the crowd noise every time he takes a snap. He has been blitzed early and often from Reggie Hunt primarily, who's right down here in your screen, coming off the edge once more. And again, he is clean to the quarterback and puts a hit on him. And through all of that, he's moving the chains.
For Jenkins. Coming around, David Allen, upended by Ladolfius McCalla.
That's the second time Ladolfius and McCalla has come up on the run. Now the progression for Steve Barato is to try and take advantage of that aggressiveness from Ladolfius McCalla stopping the run. McCalla has come up. Now remember, he's a corner. But in this bunch formation that the Calgary Stampeders run, it brings him closer to the line of scrimmage. There he is again, number 1. Now, can they sneak a receiver in behind him under that formation is the question.
Double tight end, 3 receivers, short side of the field. 2nd and 10. Burris gets it away. And Reynolds smothered by Stancil at the 29. So they get back just to the line of scrimmage.
Chris, Henry Burris wanted to go to the one-on-one at the wide side of the field. It's a read route or an option route for Jermaine Copeland. That's where he's looking. He's looking over to Jermaine Copeland, but it took too long to develop because, once again, Saskatchewan pressure. Once again, Reggie Hunt is right there, and I don't even know how Henry Burris got that out of there.
So into this breeze, DeAngelis comes on.
That's a big drive for number 1 for the Calgary Stampeders.
DeAngelis, here's his perfect record on the day. 36 of 46 on the year. And this one pushed to the left. And Holmes thought about it. And he'll put a knee down. So 1 for the Stamps. It's an 11-point lead. Can be interesting, and that was a critical Calgary drive against the wind, even if they did settle for 1. Marcus Crandall at the 35-yard line. There's an out, and Thurman dropped at 37.
It really was, Chris, because even though that only resulted for Calgary in one point when Corey Holmes conceded the missed field goal, it was a drive that lasted 5 minutes and 3 seconds against the wind. And that's huge for the Calgary Stampeders, who want to survive this quarter and then try and make hay in the 4th.
Strangely enough, the Stampeders' 10 points have all come against the wind of this game. They were scoreless in the first quarter with the breeze. Crandall overthrowing Jason French. And the momentum to Calgary continues here with a 2 and out after the 5-minute-plus drive for a single point on the last series.
Yeah, and clearly the change has been made in the Calgary defense. They're coming now with pressure. They're blitzing. John Grace, Brian Clark, both involved on that last play, blitzing Marcus Crandall. He had to rush the throw and overthrew the intended target. So Denny Crean has made some adjustments defensively in this second half.
3rd down, high snap, McCalla, and he just boots it, and it's picked up. And Calgary, it's Nick Lewis. He's going to score. Nick Lewis as they botch the snap. And Lewis, who scored on a block punt in Winnipeg early, picked up the ball and ran it in from 30 yards out. And it was unorthodox, but that's the first punt return for a touchdown by Calgary this year.
Well, Paul McCallum has done this before on high snaps in his career, but if you're going to kick the football, the idea here is to turn around and kick it out of the back of the end zone. A safety touch, 2 points, doesn't hurt you too badly. You kick it like that, now it's a scramble, because Paul McCallum's cover team is gone. They're going down the field thinking that ball is going to be punted. A high snap, he can't handle it, and now he kicks it right to Nick Lewis, who gets the good hop, and goodbye.
So maybe Stephen Glenn trying to get a little extra on that into the wind, and he put it over McCallum. And how this game has changed. Calgary within 4.
Nature designed the perfect problem, so we engineered the perfect solution. Nordic Winter Tires, on sale now. Buy a set, save $40, plus winter rims are just $39.99 each. Only at Canadian Tire.
I'll start with you. That was the best game all season.
Hey, guys.
Hey, Rick, what happened? You missed the whole game.
Sorry, I got caught. What's the score?
So now 8 points against the win for the Stampeders.
You can't, oh, sorry, Chris, you can't put that on Paul McCallum. I mean, it was the snap that causes the problems, but McCallum tried to kick it through the back of the end zone. He's making a good play. The way he did it, he turned around, kicked it towards the line of scrimmage, and that puts his entire team in a bind. Most of the cover guys are gone, and Nick Lewis only has to beat the kicker.
So the Roughriders, who had this completely in hand.
What is going on? We got a Chicago fan, Green Bay fan, this is Saskatchewan.
Nick Lewis in search of one Stampeder fan in behind that Calgary bench.
Yeah, he found the Chicago fan. He knows there's a few Saskatchewan fans back there.
Geronimo knows he silenced most of them for at least the next few seconds.
Well, there's not much they can say after he scores a touchdown on the special teams.
I love playing here more than anywhere else. Y'all make this shit so fun.
You know what? And that's right. Tom Higgins mentioned that yesterday too. He said,
"I love y'all back home."
Taylor Field.
What's up, Daddy? Hey, I'm only 23. I can't catch yet. My mama watching this.
He said Taylor Field is a great place to play, a tough place to win.
Just for statistical purposes, it's being ruled a fumble recovery because the ball didn't get to the line of scrimmage. So no punt return touchdown for Lewis, a fumble recovery for a touchdown. The 4th fumble charged against Saskatchewan on the day, and all points have come, with the exception of the one single, from fumble recoveries. DeAngelis kicks it deep. Kennedy Nikiasen's got it. Check that Kenton Keith up across the 43-yard line. And a reminder, you can vote for the player of the game in the 4th quarter. Text message your vote using your Rogers phone and send to Go CFL. Marcus Crandall looked like a lock late in the first half.
Well, I sure did. He was handling the zone drops very well from the Calgary defense. Now they've changed it up, and it's up to Marcus Crandall if he's going to sustain the voting and get that player of the game and win this football game. Now he's got to pick up blitz on 2nd and long.
Kenton Keith limped off after the kick return. Holmes, the running back, first down, 42-yard line. Crandall underneath. There's Corey Holmes. Dropped immediately. George White with the tackle at the 48.
George White smelled that one out. Corey Holmes was his responsibility, and Corey Holmes is the check down man and just dropped the football off if nothing's open down the field for Crandall. George White closed the distance in a hurry.
5 for Holmes, 2nd and 5. Crandall, Holmes again, broke the tackle, has a first down. However, there's a flag, and Raheem Abdullah has an earful for Dave Ewell, and he was just probably emphasizing that he had been held, and that's the call from Dave Ewell.
Holding, Saskatchewan 53, 10-yard penalty, 2nd down repeated.
Charles Thomas, the left tackle.
Right down here. Charles Thomas right there gets the jersey and pulls Raheem Abdullah to the ground.
So 2nd and 15. Crandall. This one, George White's got picked off. And White continues his big afternoon against his former team. It's the first interception of the game, and the momentum swing has even more oomph here for Calgary.
Well, Chris, you again, when you sent pressure at Crandall in the last series, now he's thinking pressure and he rushes the throw. You're going to see George White drop into the zone, and they don't send pressure. The outside, you can look at the linebackers all the way across the board. They've got all the holes filled. In fact, there was a race to that football by white jerseys.
Second interception of the year for White, second in as many games. He had a touchdown return against Hamilton last week. Burris looked for Rambo, incomplete. Omar Morgan on the corner in coverage.
Also, thank God you turned around. There's a guy right there.
And White has been red hot in recent weeks, 20 tackles in his last 2 games.
Interesting, though, George White not quite as vocal as Nick Lewis when he gets over there on the sideline. He's trying to catch his breath and get ready for his next time out there.
He let Scott Coe handle that stuff. Second and 10. Out of the 6-pack, a completion. And there's Nick Lewis. He's got more to talk about when he gets to the sidelines, and plenty to talk about in this game now.
Yeah, they keep battling. Nick Lewis, Eddie Davis in the secondary, and Nick Lewis is going to get the in route, come across the middle. Number 82 at the top of your screen. There he is. He comes across, and it's Eddie Davis who makes the hit immediately.
Lewis with his third 100-yard game of the year. At the 39, first down. And that pass is caught. Good break on the ball by McCalla, but Brett Ralph hung in there.
Well, that's big time.
Makes the sure-handed catch.
Yeah, that's a big-time catch from Brett Ralph. You know, and if there was any doubt as whether or not he's a keeper and could play at this level, that one there will pretty much answer any critics, because that's a tough catch to make with Ladolphus McCalla all over his back. I mean, McCalla had a great jump at that football, went up over his back, and somehow Brett Ralph hung on. I mean, that's a big-time pro catch.
I wasn't sure it wasn't McCalla who was going to come up with the football, but there is Brett Ralph, one of the Ralph receiving brothers in this league.
And Brock and Hamilton, congratulations to him. And, you know, he got out to a slow start in that game and then came up with a nice touchdown catch, so maybe he's going to get some confidence as they finish off their season. But big win for the Ticats.
David Bush shaken up on that.
Doing is Scott Gordon, the safety, will move to David Bush's spot, and Darnell Edwards will move into the safety spot.
So Gordon's on the hot seat. First down. Burris hands off to Reynolds. And he plows for a couple before he's pushed back.
And you know Calgary wants to stay with their game plan and eat up this third quarter, but you know they've got to be tempted to go after Scott Gordon, who's not known for his coverage ability, but is for his ability to make the big hit from the safety spot. He loves to come up and tattoo people coming across that middle. He's got a very different role right now with David Bush out for at least 2 more plays. He's got to cover either Nick Lewis or Jermaine Copeland inside.
Could be the final play of the third quarter. Second and 7. Blitz into the end zone, and Copeland can't catch up to it as they tried to work on Scott Gordon.
That's the matchup, of course, they went to, right to Scott Gordon, who hung in there.
Final play of the third quarter. Calgary right back in it.
Well, in a win game, it's all about time of possession, and the Calgary Stampeders dominated that in the third quarter. That's why it's so even in the totals after 3.
Stampeders with the football for 9:51 in that third quarter. And now, DeAngelis to get Calgary within 1. From the 29, he's made all 3 inside the 30 today. And he's made another. So we've got ourselves a 1-point game here in the opening minute of the fourth quarter, and the dynamics of the afternoon have changed dramatically.
Well, they certainly have, because everyone on both benches, both these football teams understand the Calgary Stampeders into the wind ate up that quarter. Now the Saskatchewan Roughriders know that too, and the crowd is out of it. Now they have to try and make a play on defense or offensively to try and get the crowd right back into it again.
Turnovers have been key. The fumbles and the last interception by Marcus Crandall, and Henry Burris has righted the ship and got things going his way now. And wouldn't he love to silence these fans completely in the fourth quarter? And the run game stuffed there as Kenton Keith hit right at the line of scrimmage.
Boy, momentum is a funny thing, and again, the crowd it's the sound of silence all of a sudden. Scott Coe is right there to stop that run from Kenton Keith, and
you know, they weren't playing Simon and Garfunkel at McMahon to get ready for this game, but,
no.
but they like the sounds of it now. Second and 11. Randall over the middle, Travis Moore. A big play in front of Trey Young, the safety, and Moore has his third catch of the day.
Well, that's a big one. Go to the veteran. Go to the guy you know will be reliable in recognizing where to go in a hurry. And Marcus Crandall goes back to his comfort zone and back to that comfort blanket. And that's Travis Moore over the middle. Good solid catch for Moore as he's hit by Trey Young immediately.
144 yards away from 10,000, and he admits that's a milestone that would be important to Travis Moore. Right now, the game more important for all concerned. That ball tipped. Randy Chevrier with the pressure. And then a little push on Kenton Keith to rile up the Saskatchewan running back.
Interesting play from the Saskatchewan offense. They tried to fake the hitch and looked like they were going to go deep to the outside, and then Kenton Keith is just going to sneak underneath and become the screen man. There's the fake hitch to the outside, like they're going to go deep, and then go back over the middle to Kenton Keith, who had some blocking in front of him. If not for Randy Chevrier, who's really athletic from that defensive line. He has an interception on the season.
Oh, he made a highlight reel interception for sure. And an alert play there to set up second and 10. Crandall. And is this ball going to be picked? Yes! Kobe Reinhardt's got it. And Reinhardt fumbles the ball. Saskatchewan gets it back. Jamal Richardson saves the day when Reinhardt looked like the two teams as we head down to the sidelines again. Ray Morrison.
Chris, I'm in that 6-yard zone between the visitor bench and the stands here on the east side of Taylor Field, and it has become awfully quiet over here as the lead is now down to 1. The fans have noticed that their home team has squandered a huge lead for the most part. Sheldon Puschik of the Stampeders told me that it is much more quiet here on this bench than it was when the game started.
Yes, and they're lucky it still is a lead and that they have the football. They get it back on the recovery by Richardson after the Reinhardt interception. The play ended up losing 27 yards for Saskatchewan. Kenton Keith trying to bounce it outside, and he is dropped at the 19-yard line, so he loses another yard. But let's see how Saskatchewan lost and then got the football back.
Well, the players and the fans are going to be completely emotionally exhausted if plays like this continue. Elijah Thurman pops it up. Kobe Reinhardt takes it back the other way. Then he fumbles, cutting back right there. Marcus Crandall strips it out, and good hustle from Jamal Richardson is back there to recover that football for Saskatchewan.
Second and 12. Crandall rolling, and that one over the head of French incomplete. It'll be third down. And it's been a different Saskatchewan offense in the second half.
It certainly has. The adjustment being made by the Calgary defense to send pressure on Marcus Crandall from the linebacking core. Brian Clark, John Grace primarily, and you can see that the halves have changed. Now for Marcel Belfait, the offensive coordinator of the Saskatchewan Roughriders, it's up to him to now change things up, move his night to pond 4 and see if he can't beat that blitz with some deep routes. Problem is, he's into the wind now.
And now McCallum has to kick into the wind. David Allen awaits. And Allen will field it at the 51. Mike McCullough there with Nikiasen. It's a 30 Taylor Field, 11:35 to go. It has been a resilient, patient Henry Burris today. And in curling terms, he's got the hammer now. Down by 1, but the breeze at his back in this fourth quarter. And a flag and a procedure call. Do we put that one up to the noise or not? Is it loud enough to credit the 13th man here?
Calgary 65. 5-yard penalty. Still down.
Say 5 for sure. We'll borderline on that one, but before that snap of that football, Henry Burris looked onto the defense to see if David Bush had come back in. He's not. It's still Scott Gordon playing halfback. Now that'll force Saskatchewan in a more zone defense.
Now the fans rev up after the Taylor Robertson procedure call. 1st and 15, Reynolds draw play, and he fumbles the football. Saskatchewan's got it, and they're ruling it dead. And I'm not sure about this. Stansel got it, but that ball popped out.
Oh, baby. And there's a replay monitor in Taylor Field this year, brand new, and the fans are going to get a chance to look at this one again as well. Here you go, Calgary fans. There's the hit.
That ball's out.
The ball is out before he hits the ground by the looks of that replay. It's out now.
If it was loud before, it's raucous now. And Burris isn't necessarily the target. He is here. Henry Burris downfield. Copeland! Touchdown! Or wait, he didn't break the play and he was kept out at the goal line. Back to the goal line. But how about Burris finding Copeland for his first catch of the day?
Well, Burris has now got it under control to be able to come out of that, get to the outside. The safety blitz was coming. Darnell Edwards was coming off the edge. First of all, with the crowd going crazy, here comes the pressure, and Burris has the presence of mind to bounce to the outside and find Copeland down the field, and then, as he's being tackled, still get the football out of there.
Backside broke the plane, but it's the ball that's got to get over.
First catch of the game for Copeland, and it's a big one.
52 yards, and now from the 1, Henry Burris, and he doesn't get there. Push back, and they'll need to try again.
Boy, and the Saskatchewan fans will go back to that Joffrey Reynolds, what appeared to be a fumble. It was ruled that he was down on the play. The second play out of that, controversial call. Right there, Joffrey Reynolds, the ball is out, and he goes down.
Reggie Hunt with the stick. Calgary gets a break. Crandall to the goal line. Did he drop it? That ball's loose. Saskatchewan says they've got it. Let's see what Dave Ewell says. But Burris tried to reach and lost the handle.
It is absolute mayhem in here right now.
And it's 3rd down. Calgary's got it.
But they haven't got the major.
And it'll take a while to unpile.
You get the feeling that if Calgary is going to punch it in here, they're going to have to try and hit the perimeter. Burris didn't cross the plane and had lost the football completely. He couldn't find it.
Boy, it looked like that surge had taken Burris to the goal line, but maybe without the football.
And they're going to kick a field goal. Tom Higgins is not going to gamble on 3rd down.
Well, he wants the lead. See if he tries to draw Saskatchewan offside. A little surprised at this decision. They'll kick it. They've got the lead. So they take care of the immediate business, claiming the lead. On Wendy's Friday Night Football, BC takes on the Eskimos in Edmonton. Coverage begins at 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific, available in TSN HD, and the Lions are back with a little snarl after last night's demolition of the Blue Bombers. Now, I'm just an armchair quarterback. I would have gone for it. You're the football guy. You like the call.
I love the call from Tom Higgins.
Take the lead. That's what they've got. It is 2. My thinking is you're stopped. You've still got a team going into the win from their 1-yard line.
Yes, you do, but you are in hostile territory. It's 3rd down after being the previous 2 downs on that 1-yard line and not getting in. You give Saskatchewan that much more momentum and get this crowd back in it with a goal line stand, and this game may slip away. Even if Calgary loses this game, I love the call from Tom Higgins.
And they did turn it over on downs earlier in the game from back there. And with that support, I still don't like the call. Corey Grant with a catch, his first of the day, up at the 43. To me, just with the field position of the game, and you've still got the wind, go for the juggler.
Right now you got the lead, and you can control the field position, though, with 1 good punt and a 2-and-out from your defense. Now they're going to need that 2-and-out. Well, it'll end up being a 3-and-out now because Saskatchewan's going to go for it here.
I was going to say the next big decision now is on the other side with Danny Barrett here. 3rd and 1. They're going for it. The 44. Can't keep the running back, but it's Crandall plunging ahead, and he should have it. So the coaches have to make those tough decisions to earn their keep.
Well, this football game has had a little bit of everything. I mean, it's had the tremendous hype, and it's lived up to it. Both coaches having to make interesting decisions throughout it. We've seen fumbles, we've seen turnovers, we've seen controversial calls, and we're not done yet.
Now, we've had our share of some weirdness here, too. 1st and 10, Crandall, hitch. Richardson wrapped up. Brian Clark is there quickly at the 49, maybe 4 for Jamel Richardson, but it has been a strange 4th quarter.
A roller coaster of emotion for the home crowd here at Taylor Field. Thought they had a 1st down there. Then they were upset about the interception, and all of a sudden Crandall knocks it out. Jamel Richardson gets it back on the same play. And this. Ralphie Reynolds looked like he fumbled. Didn't happen. Ruled down. Burris. Made a play after that. They end up kicking the field goal to take the lead, and Crandall just throws an incompletion.
And they can't convert on 2nd down with the incompletion intended for Jason French. This was the big one.
Right down to the goal line, but, you know, give TJ Stansel some credit. Copeland didn't get in. They held him on 2 and held them to 3. The Saskatchewan Roughriders to the Calgary Stampeders to 3 points rather than the major.
Allen drops deep. McCallum again to kick into the wind. 9 turnovers in the game. 6 over Saskatchewan. And it'll be another one. And this time McCallum will kick it out. There's the 2 points conceded, and now the problems between the snapper and McCallum have become the difference in the football game.
And now we have seen it all. And now Danny Barrett has seen way too many problems on his special teams. But this time McCallum makes the right choice. If you're going to kick it on the fly, kick it out the back of the end zone, give up 2. Not the opportunity for another major for the Calgary Stampeders, and you know Nick Lewis was hovering in the area.
9 points now for Calgary on botched punts. Stephen Glenn, normally a reliable guy.
Well, he had to snap into the wind the last time. This time he put the same mustard on it, and with the wind it goes flying over the top of, I mean, that thing was still on the rise when it got to Paul McCallum, and that's a tough play to make when he kicked it out of bounds, and he does it right this time. So Glenn's had his problems trying to gauge the wind, because in that last quarter he was into it, tried to muscle it, got it a little high. This time he put that same mustard on it, and that thing took off.
Well, usually the Roughriders, being more accustomed to the wind games, feast on visiting teams making those kinds of mistakes. But not today.
Well, that's a big play for McCallum, though, to kick it out the back of the end zone this time. Stampeders, though, get the football back. with the wind at their back. So you talk about that strategy on going for three, taking the lead. Now it really works out well for the Calgary Stampeders.
Short kickoff. Coe eats the football at the 41. Didn't want to take any chances.
Now Henry Burris and Steve Barato will discuss controlling the game now. They do have the hammer, like you mentioned, Chris, because if they can control the game with Joffrey Reynolds, try and eat up time in this quarter, even if they punt it away with the wind at their back, they're going to win that field position battle. And that's what getting that 3 points and the lead will do. Not just one more time.
All right, I'd still live on the edge. At the 41, here's Reynolds. And that Saskatchewan defense trying to tear it out of there. Scott Schultz. As Reynolds to the 45 has 4.
Yeah, for the Saskatchewan defense now, in order to try and change that field position advantage, they're going to have to turn it over. A 2-and-out isn't going to be good enough because a big punt can still put Calgary in the advantage in that situation, field position.
You know, both teams are 8-1 when they've won the turnover battle or broken even in games this year. And right now it's Calgary +3 in turnovers. And an out for Jenkins, incomplete.
But a safe throw from Henry Burris. And safe throw meaning he threw that to the outside and low. So if Jenkins can't get to it, then it goes incomplete and he puts his punt team. For the Calgary Stampeders, the punt team is not a bad play in this quarter. A turnover is what hurts them.
5:07 remaining here in the fourth quarter. And now the clock starts to run. Corey Holmes, a man that has provided Saskatchewan field position all season long, needs one now as Calgary has to punt their first 2-and-out in the second half. Big kick over the head of McCallum, and it'll bounce through the end zone, and that's a single point. And makes it 5-point lead, but gives Saskatchewan better field position.
A big kick by Dales, but one that he would prefer to have had gone out of bounds. A single point really doesn't help Calgary.
85 yards, one off his season high. And a reminder that following this game, join Corey Warren with all the latest sports news. Sports Center on TSN following Saskatchewan and Calgary. Under 4.5 minutes to go here. Stamps trying to preserve this win and clinch a spot in the postseason. That ball batted down. And Raheem Abdullah with the knockdown. And for Abdullah, it's number 5 on the year.
Yeah, and you put that with 8 sacks, and Raheem Abdullah's having a great season for the Calgary Stampeders. And Gene Makowski, the tackle, really does his job by keeping Abdullah away from Marcus Crandall. But in doing so, he gives Abdullah the chance to knock it down, and he does.
Big 2nd and 10. Marcus Crandall, 29 yards of passing in the second half. Needs 10 here underneath Holmes. Lunging to the 48, and he's going to be at least 2 yards short. And another decision for Danny Barrett with under 4 to play.
You know, it's just too early in the football game, and I say that as we down to 3:48 in the fourth quarter for Danny Barrett to gamble here. The crowd really doesn't like the decision, but I think you got to punt the football. Even though you are into the wind, you need about 20 yards of field position, 25 yards. Now Paul McCallum needs to hit a low line drive kick and hope he gets a bit of a bounce.
McCallum, after a better snap from Glenn. Ben Kelly. Check that out, fumbling it out of bounds, but it will be Calgary football at the 33. 3:29 to go.
Well, under the circumstances in this football game this afternoon, you've got to love the way Henry Burris has stuck with it. In that first half, He came out and struggled dealing with crowd noise. 4 procedure calls put his offense in holes that he couldn't come out of. He had half his passing yardage in the first half on the last 2 plays of that half. But boy, has he managed the game since then.
Boy, this will get you playoff ready, and if they can preserve this lead, they'll nail down their spot and enhance their chances of a home playoff spot. Reynolds, big run, first down, a lot more, but there is a flag. As Reynolds finally taken down at the Saskatchewan 48, but there is a flag down just after he passed the first down marker.
Jermaine Copeland was trying to block outside on the corner on Ladafius McCalla, and I think he just grabbed a little cloth. And this big long run may be coming back.
McCallum anxious to make that signal. Now, did the penalty come after the first down yardage was gained?
Holding, Calgary number 80. It was after yards were gained. 10-yard penalty, first down.
It is a first down. The ball marked back to the 35.
And just to the left of your screen, there's a little pull right there. He's got his left hand, Jermaine Copeland, on Ladafius McCallum's jersey. Doesn't let him get to the outside and cut Joffrey Reynolds off. Good call by the official.
Reynolds again. They have something on this side, but Perry and Stancil with great pursuit. And he's taken down at the 39-yard line. The 3-minute warning given to the benches.
Did well in this second half and managed the football game, but so is Marcus Crandall, who may get another opportunity. Marcus Crandall had the good first half, not so good in this second half.
23 straight points for Calgary. After they were down 21-3. Second down. And a completion from Burris, who coolly delivers Copeland's second catch of the day.
And he delivers it to the side where the Saskatchewan Roughriders have had to make that change. David Bush is out of the lineup. Scott Gordon's over there playing halfback. Copeland's the middle receiver. And he's just going to go right on Gordon, turn curl, because Gordon has to respect his speed and come up with a big catch.
At the Calgary 50-yard line, first down, clock running, 2:15. Reynolds again. And nothing there. Stopped in his tracks. Travis Smith finished him off. Let's join Ray Morrison.
More adversity for the Riders in this second half. David Bush, a right hamstring injury, has put him out of the football game, Chris.
Gone for the rest of the game, and this in second and long means that once again Scott Gordon is going to be on the hot seat. It's very difficult to move over there, and he's going to face Copeland.
Second and 10. Here comes Hunt, and that ball falls incomplete because of the pressure from the blitzing linebacker.
Burris plays this one correctly. He was going to try and go to the outside and try and get it to Jermaine Copeland. He wanted to go into the short side of the field. Nick Lewis was over there. Copeland was well covered by Gordon when the pressure came again from Reggie Hunt. Henry Burris calmly threw it away.
So Bert Dales to punt. And McCallum and Holmes have dropped deep.
2 seconds.
Well, with 2 returners back there, it would indicate the Saskatchewan Roughriders are trying to set up a return rather than a block. If they're setting up the block, they would leave just 1 back. But with the wind conditions, you almost have to put 2 back and then set up a return and hope that Corey Holmes can change field position that way.
Still trying to reset the clock, and they'll deliberate. They had 1:44, now 1:45, but looks like they want to make another adjustment.
We'll get that right. And for Burke Dales, punt this football. The last punt for the single really doesn't help him to go from 4-point lead to a 5-point lead, and neither would this one. For Dales, his objective here is to try and hit it as hard as he can, but get it out of bounds inside the 20-yard line. He has a good, strong wind behind him, which makes it that much more difficult to try and directional kick it.
Well, the rookie from Concordia, 4th-ranked punter in the league, so they've been solid in the kick department this year with 2 rookies, DeAngelis and Dales. Scott Gordon has blocked a couple this year. There we go. Trying to angle it. And it will be Holmes from his 6. Corey Holmes breaks 1. And up to the 30. Great return by Holmes. 24 yards after a 52-yard punt.
Chris, it's what legends are born from, is the situation that Marcus Crandall is in now. And he may be without his weapon. Corey Holmes grabbing that right arm and right shoulder.
It's not a good sign as Holmes immediately comes off.
But Marcus Crandall now has an opportunity. He's into a strong wind. He's got a long way to go.
Yep. What did we see from Anthony Calvillo last Sunday on TSN? And off balance, he throws incomplete, out of bounds at the Saskatchewan bench. Corey Grant, closest man to it.
And now Danny Barrett is in 3-down territory. And it may sound like a bit of a stretch, but that means he doesn't have to throw for the 10 yards here. And what I'm saying there is don't force the football down the field if you're Danny Barrett. If you're Danny Barrett, you get 7 or 8, you're good. You know you're going on 3rd down anyway. And one of the weapons is on the sideline.
Well, the Ottawa Roughriders cheering on Calgary here to keep their fate playoff hopes alive. Here's Thurman, and he can't bring it down. Crandall was jolted by Raheem Abdullah, but did deliver the football, and Thurman couldn't make the catch.
Yeah, and that's what I'm talking about. That was Marcus Crandall, I believe, forcing the football deeper than he had to. He's playing 3-down football right now, so he can throw it underneath. Lots of room underneath. Look at all the defenders for the Calgary Stampeders. George White's there. Trey Young is there. I mean, that was forcing the football when he really didn't have to. Now he's forced into 3rd and 10 rather than 3rd and 2 or 3 or 4 in that area.
It was triple coverage, but it was catchable.
No question.
And here we go down to this. 3rd and 10. They have to get to the 40. Crandall in trouble. John Grace brings him down. And the celebration will start on that Calgary sideline with 1:14 to go. 7th turnover of the game for the Roughriders.
From the left of your screen, you can see the pressure as this pocket collapses around Marcus Crandall. John Grace comes underneath on the stunt.
7th quarterback sack for Grace, and the building is emptying out quickly. Marcus Crandall seemed to have this game in control in the first half, but Henry Burris took over in the second, and now he'll run with it. Quarterback pitch across to Jenkins, and the Calgary Stampeders become an even more dangerous postseason team after coming into hostile territory like this and prevailing today against a good football team.
Well, and against the team that they went down to. You mentioned early on, Marcus Crandall had control. The crowd was a problem for Tom Higgins' squad. Their offense was struggling. Henry Burris was struggling. The crowd here loved it. They stayed patient. They hung with it. They got some plays off the special teams and have turned it around.
First down, the pitch. Joffrey Reynolds tripped up initially, but down at the 2. Darnell Edwards preventing the touchdown.
Now it's the chance of the Calgary bench to go back and look at the crowd, which is exactly 15 feet from the back of that bench. And it was the crowd that was in the ear of the Calgary Stampeders in the first half. Now they can turn it around and say, take a look at the scoreboard, and I know that hurts for Saskatchewan fans, but great game for Henry Burris, especially in this second half, for him to calmly take control, move the offense, and they did get some help from their special teams today.
Again, Calgary has Winnipeg, and if they can win there, they'll be looking at a game against Edmonton, maybe to claim the home playoff game in the Western semifinal. Looks like Saskatchewan's going to be the crossover team unless they drop their final game and Ottawa can win out against Montreal and Toronto. 2nd and 2. And Burris is just going to slide at the 5 and take no chances here.
Well, Chris, the disappointing thing, other than the fact that, of course, the crowd in the province here in Saskatchewan wanted to see Saskatchewan beat Henry Burris in his return. Other than that, when you talk about standings, the disappointment for Saskatchewan will be that their chance for home field, which they still had a chance, is now gone. It's not necessarily a bad thing if you're the Saskatchewan Roughriders and you're going through the Eastern Division. For one thing, you're going to be playing indoors for both games. Either way, it shakes out.
Clock running as DeAngelis comes on to make it an 8-point game.
And you're saying
get the ball one more time.
And you're saying there's a chance.
37 seconds left. It's the CFL. Don't go away. 75 yards away. Just over 30 seconds left. Long out, too long for Corey Grant at midfield. 32 seconds remaining.
Which is still time, although it's into the wind, uphill, in the snow, and bare feet. But coming into this game, this was the situation, the crossover look. And we won't adjust it just yet, because there is time, and it is the CFL.
But the decision desk does have their hand on the change button. Second and 10, 32 on the clock. Crandall over the middle. It took care of the catch. Scott Coe there immediately. It'll be short of the first down by about a yard.
But this is about a series late for that kind of throw from Marcus Crandall. And if he had made 3 or 4 of those kind of throws in the last series, Saskatchewan has an opportunity. Give full credit to this Calgary defense. Changed up their philosophy. Came with more pressure in the second half, and it's worked.
3rd and a yard, they have to convert. They do, and they get out of bounds. Richardson steps out at the 50. So they're 60 yards away with 17 seconds left.
Much like that game when we saw Anthony Calvillo bring the Montreal Alouettes back against the BC Lions, Crandall needs a play that'll give him a shot to throw it to the end zone. Right now, he's too far. He needs about 35 yards here to give him a shot to throw it to the end zone. Then anything can happen. Jump ball, pass interference call, and you're still playing. Now you need the 2-point convert as well.
Stamps thought it was offside, no flag. And that ball incomplete. Battle there on the far side as it was intended for Richardson. And Kobe Reinhardt, who has a pick in the game, was in coverage. 10 seconds left. 2nd and 10.
Well, now he hails Mary.
Six receivers. Grant wide to the right side. And Crandall looks for Travis Moore, and it's knocked down, incomplete. 4 seconds remaining. Ben Kelly was there, and one more play. For a game the Roughriders will look back and wonder how it slipped away, and there will be some Saskatchewan fans and perhaps Danny Barrett and company talking about the fumble that was not called.
They're going to talk a lot about that, but I'll tell you where this game changed. In the 3rd quarter, when the Calgary Stampeders dominated the time of possession into the win. That's where the game changed for Calgary.
9:51. And of course, the 2 errant long snaps. Here's Crandall looking deep, jump ball, and it's incomplete. And this game is over And the Calgary Stampeders prevail and have their first 9-win season since 2000. And Henry Burris comes into hostile territory and reminds everybody of what they lost.
Okay. Dr. Ray. Wow.
A sweet win for Burris and the Stamps here at Taylor Field.